talk about is not just machine learning. I'm going to talk about how we've been hearing about IoT in various different facets all through the conference, that IoT disruption is leading us to the next wave, which is artificial intelligence. And in terms of who I am, and I want you to know this not just as a typical speaker bio, but where I come from, my examples come from, my thinking come from is from my background of what I'm doing currently. So I've authored a couple books on IoT. I focus on where is the business value being created and how can you go successfully create a business. You could be an entrepreneur, or you could be running a company, or you could be running a division inside a company trying to figure out how to make sense of this IoT thing. And so those are my two books. And the one on the right you see is the very first one I wrote is a Kindle book. And that's more like a landscape. I put it out there to get feedback as to where to focus on. That got me on this whole journey on IoT because I started hearing from people saying, you know, the real thing is hard and this is how it is done. I started hosting a weekly show called the IoT Show on YouTube. And I started building out case studies, and then I kind of led to my book. And then Stanford called me to teach at the IoT business course. And those are the couple of different things I do. So I continue to stay in research mode, curious, skeptical on what really works, what doesn't. And the next wave, everybody, Facebook, Twitter, Google, Apple, everybody is talking about machine learning. Everybody is hiring machine learning engineers like crazy. And so I went back to that skeptical place and saying, wait a minute, what are they talking here? We are not seeing enough applications coming from that space. What do they mean by that? And then I was very fascinated by how IoT is leading to that wave. And that's what I'm going to share with you today. And I don't mind being interrupted, so if you have questions you want to ask me in the middle, if it makes sense in the flow, I will talk to you right away, or I would definitely answer that question. So when I say IoT business disruption is leading to the next wave called artificial intelligence, I just want us to get to the same starting place. So by business disruption, it could be efficiency created in your existing processes, new jobs created, new modes of transportation like self-driving car. I tried to kind of come up with the general wording for it. And how it changes industries, how it changes economies. By economies, I'm not just talking about money. How it is going to shift an industry that is in one country to move to another country. Or, you know, it could be that a whole new innovation happens, and I have a very global focus. I travel around the world and talk to all kinds of people, and in my show also it's very global. So it fascinates me. There is a pattern of certain focus that happens in US. There's certain focus that happens in Turkey. There's certain focus that happens in Germany. So I believe that, you know, IoT is kind of shifting the industry spectrum to different countries to create different, you know, economic growth in different ways. And then finally it reaches, you know, when we have so many machines all around us, it's going to change, you know, the way we interact with machines and the whole consciousness, but I'm not going to go to that point today. So IoT to AI transformation. What I mean is every IoT device, whether it is small or big, whether it is a city, whether it is the industry, whether it is home, it is wearables, it's just spewing out data. I want to pause for a minute. How many of you work with data? Show of hands. How many of you make sense, like use data? You don't really play with data, but you apply the data and you use that for your business decisions, for your sales cycle, for something. Okay. So IoT is just spitting out data like as a time series and whatever frequency it is set up, but a lot of data. And when you say the device is smart, it is just creating smart data. But when you add artificial intelligence, when you try to make sense of the data in large volume, that's where intelligence is created. That's what we'll talk about in a little bit. And I just wanted to pick an example, and I've been looking at this company called PenSmart. I believe somebody from PenSmart is here too today for a case study. And I find that what they do is they are like a many year-old company where they have street lights. And like hundreds of years, they've had streetlights in various different universities. And with IoT, they decided to add security to the streetlights and add a little retrofit unit to it. Now once they add a unit, it's not just adding connectivity, now it can add cameras, it can add Wi-Fi, it can add a whole bunch of other things to it. So in short, we can say, hey, it's energy saving, now it is, you can know when to switch on the lights on and off remotely, understand consumption, that's smart, it stops at IoT. But with that, when they start adding cameras for security, now they can add computer vision, they can take that data and look for patterns in the city, they can do a lot more machine learning. Then that's the interesting place where I'm talking about a simple IoT leads to machine intelligence. And you could say that for pretty much any device, your favorite IoT product you can pick, and then you can see where it can lead to machine intelligence. So when I say artificial intelligence, it's not new. Artificial intelligence has been around for many, many, many years, and it has had its waves. And so there are a lot of skeptics who think artificial intelligence is about robots and taking over humankind. That could happen, and I'm not saying I won't go there, I will go there today. But what I'm talking about artificial intelligence, I just want to put it out here in terms of, since Carl said machine learning, I'm so glad I had this slide here, because when you hear all the companies betting on AI as the next thing and they're talking about as AI, each one of them is focusing on one area of AI. And so there is virtual reality, there's augmented reality, there's machine learning of just the data, of all kinds of data. And that could be, you could take voice and convert that to text, or you could take text and convert that to voice, or you could do facial recognition. So my dream with the pictures that I take of my audience from my keynotes is, I don't think we have it quite there, but I want to be able to know my audience, and I want to be able to do facial recognition and know who is who. So you're here, I meet you, I might meet you some other place, but I would like to know who my audience are, and it's a long way to go, but I'm hoping that I will be able to do that one day. So other than facial recognition, there's natural language processing, computer vision, whole bunch of things. So I just wanted to put it out there. So when I talk about AI, this is what I'm talking about, and the bubble size actually shows where I'm going to focus. So virtual reality is being applied in sports, where you understand how the players are playing by actually having the virtual reality experience, capturing how they are moving, capturing how they are playing, and then making sense of the data to actually say how they can improve their games. And that is happening in our professional sports in US today. Augmented reality is taking the existing experience and then augmenting it with a more visual experience. And you'll be, I don't know, I was very surprised to hear this, because augmented reality looked like a gaming environment to me. And then I was very surprised at the application of it. Konica Minolta is building out an augmented reality operating system for B2B. And what they're doing is, for oil and gas industry, they actually have augmented reality pop up when a machine, in the oil rig out in the sea, some part breaks, or by predictive analytics from an IoT sensor, they're able to see it is going to break maybe, and they don't want any downtime. They actually have the AR of this machine, of this particular part pop up with all the details, so they could go fix it. And there are many, many other possibilities that they're coming up with, applying AR in a very practical enterprise setting. And so those are two different examples I wanted to share, but I'm going to focus more on the machine learning and all the different flavors of machine learning to show you some applications where I believe I feel confident to bet on, and to tell you that we cannot ignore it because it's here and it's coming. And just to get us again on the landscape of the AI companies, it shows there are 957 companies that have been funded in the AI space. So it was interesting to hear this morning from the panel of investors as to where the money and how do you value IoT startup. So it was fascinating. I was thinking of how do you value the AI startups, because that's the next wave. When I say next wave, 957, and this is a little dated. So I'm sure there are more than 1,000 companies. And the data usually is collected from, like the map of it shows it's a lot in US, Canada, UK, and a little bit in India and Israel. Other than that, I'm sure there's a lot more AI stuff being built in China, but it is not counted here because it is not funded in the VC ecosystem. And there are certain companies like Slovakia where they're doing interesting IoT applications, and the natural progression of that is machine learning. But they don't have the same funding ecosystem, and it's not counted here. Instead, the industry there supports it, so it builds augmenting startups that they could take over later. But I wanted to share this slide because it gives you a good feeling about what are the breakdown of the AI companies. And machine learning itself is in various different categories. Computer vision is in various different categories. Then there's robots of different kinds, all the stuff that I told you about, text to speech, speech to text, this gesture control, whole bunch of stuff, right? And then this is an interesting thing. This was done again by an investor, which actually looks at machine learning and breaks it down to, okay, what are the technologies? They actually call artificial intelligence in one bucket. That's not how I view it. But they break it down to the machine learning, natural language processing, all those different core technologies as one layer. What I want you to focus on is look at the industries. Like all the industries, when they say rethinking industries, that's what I call as disruption. If you are in any of these industries, it's going to have a cascade effect. I think our previous speaker, Shekhar Iyer, spoke about this, where in a connected car, you actually know when you touch the brake or what happened, right? That data is in your car. Think of the implication of this for legal industry. Manufacturing is a given. We have robots making robots. And every single process in manufacturing, the factory is becoming the new factory with IoT, the factory 2.0 already. And in the panel on health, on the investments in the morning, everybody said different things on what they would bet on, what would be the surprise factor. It was very fascinating to see so many different answers. But the one thing, did you realize they all agreed on, is the one industry that's going to be disrupted is healthcare. Who is here from healthcare? You're lucky people, because the industry is disrupted means there's so much opportunity out there. And so you get to be on the front and go make that happen. So other than that, ag tech, agriculture, it's just amazing. There's so much smart farming going on. I was very fascinated in one of my IoT shows. I spoke to somebody from Germany to understand what they're doing in different fields. And I was under the impression, I had heard about so much in the auto space from Germany. It was fascinating to hear that they have tractors which are self-driving tractors. And so what they do is they have, so John Deere makes them, and they do this thing called precision farming. And people actually, they are not allowed, like in US, the machine, the self-driving car cannot go alone. There's got to be a person. Similarly, in the tractor, there's got to be a person. So the farmer sits there with an iPad all day long while the tractor goes around and does what it's supposed to do. It waters in some place, it puts fertilizer in some place, it checks the soil alkalinity in some place. It keeps going, but it's all self-driven and automated. But again, when it comes to the AI part, it's not just it's doing its job. Yes, it's efficiency, definitely, but it can understand patterns. When does the soil dry up? When does it need water? When did I give so much more water, and what was the yield? All this data, as it gets collected, it leads to what I'm calling as a machine intelligence, because now you can churn the data. For the next batch, you don't need to wait for the machine to just go do the same thing. You can actually be more efficient and pick the right crop that would give you the right yield. And then the last part is the whole, the rethinking the human-computer interface is the robotics and emotional intelligence and stuff like that. So those are all the industries impacted. So with that, what I thought I would focus on is, I believe robots, drones, and algorithms are three areas which actually are seeing business applications, and they are all based on machine learning. The robots, when they are walking around doing things, it's computer vision. All the different data that drives them is done by machine learning. So if you look at any class online to understand machine learning as a technologist, the classic example they will give you is the self-driving car. The self-driving car learned by machine learning, by feeding lot of data on driving patterns to see what is the right thing. They didn't make rules on, like we go to traffic school and we learn every single rule. They didn't feed all these rules to the computer and to the device and say, now go drive. They wanted it to learn, because even if you feed all these rules, people do not follow the rules, they break, they come in erratically. How do you teach the device to stop when it needs to stop and go when it needs to go? So they actually fed it data by training data of real scenarios. And in the Google self-driving car, I'd heard that they actually sent a golf cart random across the street in its path. I mean, it's like duck crossing. It happens. At Santa Clara Convention Center, I remember I was going to my talk, and I was kind of late, so I wanted to be there for the previous session. And this beautiful duck, the whole family is walking across the street. I just had to stop. I loved it. I watched it, but I don't know what a self-driving car would do. I think it would have computer vision to say, oh, there is something in there. It wouldn't know whether it is a golf cart or a truck or another man crossing the street, but it would do that. So I thought I would share on all these 3 areas that I would bet on as the future applications of machine learning. So one thing, as soon as you talk about robots, people say, oh, jobs, what jobs can they do and what jobs would go away? So I have a fascinating exercise I'm going through, thinking about I look at jobs, I look at people and say, oh, if a robot took this job, what would it be? So the other day I was coming in a plane and I dozed off, and I had tucked in my feet and everything, but they announced that it was going to be bumpy. They started serving drinks, and they said, hey, it's bumpy, so we are going to go and clear the aisles. I didn't know, I was sleeping. So they quickly rushed through with the cart, and they hit me on my knee. And I woke up, I was in pain, I did not know what was going on, and it hit me that, oh, they just hit me with the cart. And they just ran away. Like this lady looks at me, she goes, oh, and then she literally ran. And I didn't know what was going on, and I was shocked. And then it actually, one of the things I thought was, what if this job could be replaced by a robot? If a robot was going and it hit me, what it would do? It would have machine learned that you hit a customer, you're going to be sued. You hurt somebody, maybe you need to check whether they're alive, or things like that. And it would have checked the probability. And the more that lady didn't come back, check on me, really upset me. And I was thinking, if this was a robot, my own expectation must be lowered. I would not expect it to come and feel sorry for her. But for a human, I really was upset. More than being hurt by the actual cart, I was more hurt that she didn't come and say sorry. She did eventually come, and she said, oh, I did not know, and because I had to run away, and because of the turbulence and whatnot, and so we made peace. But that got me thinking. And I don't want to go too much there, but the other thing I keep thinking, looking at news every day, is I just think, what if our president was a robot? What would our experience be? What would we have to put up with, or what we don't have to put up with? But I'm not going there. So there's a lot of research that's going on in social behavior. On the left, you see one called Jack Rabot, that is from Stanford. We have that in campus, trying to not talk to us, to interact with us, show directions and stuff. The one on the right is in Europe. It's in Amsterdam, in the airport, called Spencer. And it's doing the same thing, trying to show directions and be helpful. But they are trying to learn social behavior. So going by this exercise, I would say we are very, very far away from robots really learning social behavior, because I don't think we know enough social behavior ourselves to, with 100% certainty, train them. In China, what they did is they just said, we are going to, in Guangzhou province, they just, in one place, they got rid of wait staff, and they came with robots. And then they said the robots were not social enough and fired them all one day. So in terms of robots taking away our job, I don't think that's happening, but learning social skills, they are on their way, and eventually they will get there. Robots making machines, that's already there, happening in industrial automation. It's not new, even before this buzz of AI and IoT, that's there. In fact, the Tesla factory has a lot of robots making Tesla cars. The fascinating area, which is not talked about, we don't think about as robots, is these tiny little nanobots. They are robots, but they are getting FDA approval. They are impacting healthcare. The table here which talked about healthcare. they are coming in. They could go into the body, get our vitals, kill cancer cells. They could be, doing, be a biomarker for payments, for our identity, a whole bunch of stuff. So that is an area I would say watch out for if you're interested in, in exploring that. This is one I would bet on. The second thing is algorithms. Algorithm is basically not a device, but it's a piece of software which is an AI. Are they dumb or smart? Instead of being good or bad, I think we should see whether they're smart. So quiz here. In these two pictures here, I have an assistant, personal assistant called Amy. Which one is Amy? The one on the left, that's me standing with a device, and this is another device. Which one is Amy, left or right? You want to point? This one? It's like that side or this side? This side. Okay. So the clue is Amy is an algorithm, which means she doesn't have a device body. She's just a piece of software. So she manages my time, and so if you email me, Amy will respond and find time in my calendar, and you will not find out that Amy is a bot for a very long time. So the other area where practically so I use the algorithm that I use for my scheduling is from a company called X.AI. It's really awesome. The other one, Google, I heard is doing this to predict kidney problems. They're doing a deep learning algorithm to figure out patterns. And again, it's machine learning to figure out this whole thing. The final thing is drones. Drones are basically machines which fly or swim, and they are again some form of robots, right? Are they good or bad? So my favorite drone, it's called Of Course I Love You. It's really a real name, and this is from SpaceX, and it's a ship. That's where the spaceship that is launched by SpaceX, the returnable ones, they come back and launch. They land there instead of space. They just put it on a ship. So the ship has to take its weight and adjust and manage and help it land properly. There's so many other autonomous flying or swimming machines. I have a bunch of examples here, but these are real funded companies. All of these are startups, and Zipline is doing medical delivery. Matternet is doing heavy lifting of transportation in Nepal. The Zipline is doing in Rwanda. This HydroSwarm is from MIT. It actually goes out in swarms to underwater, and it can look for pipe leakages, or it can help scuba divers. It can do a lot of things underwater. So those are the drone thing. And then the self-driving cars itself, right? They are not just disrupting transportation. The important thing to know is it's a cascade effect, right? It affects one industry, and then it affects a whole bunch of other industries. And platooning or cooperative trucks, they're just not just driving, right? It's impacting shipping, logistics, and within factory, all kinds of pickups in mining and metal industry. So with that, you should disrupt or get ready to disrupt. So that's like your machine when it starts to blackmail you. So with that, I'm done. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. Yes. Carl, there's a question. There's a question here. Can you?
Hold on. There's a microphone.
Thank you.
And there's a person.
Hi. Since you are talking about relationship with machine between human, I'd like to get some input about ethics side, because engineers or scientists are caught up like machine improvement or solving equation.
Yeah.
And also Isaac Maslow, tells about robot laws, but some people criticize it doesn't fit into current days. And some people said we should come up some ethics just for this specific and looking at the Greek philosophy. So I'm just curious.
That's an awesome question, and one you cannot escape when you talk about robots. So I started out saying I'm going to talk about this in the context, and I put machine learning as my big blob there, because as technology, machine learning is the technology behind it. And yes, so eventually when you get to a world of robots, we need to have ethics on who's building the robots, what's the boundary, what are they going to use it to, who's controlling who, and all that stuff. And there's a lot more research to be done and a long way for us to go. But everything that we are building and teaching the robots, like the self-driving car example, is they are feeding data on what are the driving rules and what could happen in a road scenario. And if they did not feed right training data, that's what the robot is going to learn. So there have been biases fed. There was a Microsoft system and they had to pull it back because there were biases in the data that it sorted faces differently. And so the biggest thing when we build robots is to feed the right data. And so when you get deeper and start doing machine learning, you'll realize that we are very, very, very far away from this world where robots are like the iRobot movie, right? The 3 rules and that, you don't harm a human, and then they turn around and then say, no, you do so much wars and stuff, and we'll have to take care of you. Those science fiction things could happen, and they are very far away. But before that, when we build the robot, the people building robot needs to have the ethics to feed the right data. If we feed the data and make it do the wrong thing, that's what it will learn as the right thing. I do not believe, I'm not in that camp where I'm saying, okay, this will all run and it will develop its own consciousness, it will turn around and get its own data and do stuff. That's way too far away. It's still science fiction.